Who are you?
I'm no one.
I was raised to do one thing. But I've got nothing to fight for.
Nothing will stand in our way. I will finish what you started.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it. The dark side. The Jedi. They're real.
The Force. It's calling to you. Just let it in.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Danny, and I'm here solo, bringing you a very special episode of the Successfully Failing podcast. Nick is not present at the moment. He is currently on a journey to New Jersey to partake in a very close friend's birthday. I believe that's tomorrow. So, happy birthday, Lou, if you're hearing this. So yeah. This episode is going to be a spoiler-heavy episode, so this is a warning. If you have not seen Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens yet, do not listen to this podcast episode. Again, if you have not seen it, do not listen to this episode. It is a spoiler-heavy episode, and I do not want to ruin anybody's experience. I know how important this is to a lot of people. I know how important it was to myself. And also, too, how important it is to the guys who were behind the movie, the J.J. Abrams and everybody at Disney, producers, directors, and all that cast. I mean, they really worked hard to keep everything on the wrap and keep major plot points of mystery. So, again, I'm warning you guys, do not listen to this episode. And in the description, in the title, I will notify that everybody that this is a very spoiler heavy episode. So again, I don't want to ruin everybody's experience. Yeah. So we have Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. This is the 7th installment of the Star Wars franchise and takes place 30 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. Now, before I get into any of the plot, any character stuff, my opinions, my reaction, let's look at the box office numbers so far. Now, going into this movie, going into the initial release, they had about, I think the numbers were anywhere from 50 to 60 to 100 million in pre-sale tickets, with IMAX and whatnot, going back to when the tickets went on sale I think it was like a month or so ago, 2 months ago maybe, and those numbers are just staggering alone. I mean, Star Wars is a big deal, and once J.J. Abrams was signed up, most people were as excited as I was, knowing how big of a Star Wars fan he is, and knowing how much justice he'll bring to the franchise coming up. And these trailers looked really damn good, and the coolest thing was they gave away nothing. They gave away 0% of the plot. I mean, you could have made your assessments, you could have had your assumptions, but he, Abrams and Disney did a really good job, like I said, of keeping things under wraps and not letting anything out the bag. And I understand why people would get upset about it being spoiled for them. You know, like it's very rare that you get a film that you can actually go into it not knowing what's gonna happen. You know, this is like how it used to be before the internet. You know, you'd get your trailer when a movie came out. You know, you're watching a movie for whatever, and you see your trailers then, or you'd see it on TV and whatnot. Maybe you'd read stuff about read stuff about the movie in newspapers, magazines. But you know, magazines are like monthly, weekly. You know, it's not like you could just go on at any given moment and have a whole entire movie given to you before you even see it. So that was cool. And again, much props to Disney, much props to J.J. Abrams and everybody who was part of this movie, cast, producers, everybody for keeping such a tight lip about all this. You know, because again, it makes the moviegoers experience a lot more interesting when you're able to watch this movie unfold while you're watching it, as opposed to like, oh yeah, I know this is gonna happen. Now again, you could have your assessments, you could have your, you know, your thoughts and theories and your assumptions and your quote unquote predictions, but you may or may not be wrong. I mean, I've gone into movies where I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is gonna happen down the line. Somebody's gonna die or whatever, but you know, wrong or right, you still you have that sense of mystery, and you know that really makes the movie experience a lot more enticing. You know, you got something like Terminator, where the last two Terminators, you get the whole plot twist in the trailer, and then you watch the movie and you're like, okay, I've seen this, so what's the point? All you're really there for is a action-packed spectacle, if you even got that. So the numbers were crazy. Like I stated, the pre-sale numbers. Now the opening weekend, you can't count Sunday because this is Sunday, so you know the numbers are not going to be out till tomorrow, obviously. But for the first 3 days, which is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, the movie's already grossed $238 million. That's the estimated number, maybe a little more. And that's huge. It already shattered Jurassic World's opening weekend, which was $208 million. And yeah, so that's pretty big numbers. Jurassic World's overall was $652 million. Then you have you have a movie like Avatar, which holds the record for $2.7 billion over there. You know, the lifespan of the movie in theaters. Now, that's a lot. But honestly, let's be real. Star Wars is a franchise. Star Wars has been around for 30 plus years. And I'm pretty sure it's going to shatter that record. Funny because Disney paid $4 billion for Lucasfilms, and with Star Wars: The Force Awakens alone, it could probably cover half of that purchase, maybe more. And then, you know, you factor in merchandising and clothing, figures and video games over the past couple years, and yeah, I think they made back their money already. But it's nice to see that one film can pretty much pay what you've paid for you know, a franchise or, you know, a company, and that's pretty cool. So I really hope it beats Avatar. I mean, Avatar, to me, it was a visual spectacle. It was, you know, story-wise, left a lot to be desired. It's pretty much Dances with Wolves meets Star Wars and a couple other stories. You know, nothing really original about it other than the shot in full 3D, you know, gimmick. But I hear people talk about Avatar is amazing. It really wasn't. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't amazing. I've seen way better movies that made a fraction of the amount of money that made. So yeah, let's see if Star Wars can actually do it. Now, funny thing had happened to us while we were before we saw the movie. We're online waiting, get into the theater, start showing the trailers. Trailers wrapped up, and the sound went off. So I hear a lot of people bickering in the background, like, "Oh, they're gonna fuck up the movie and this and that." But lady comes on, and she's all like, "Hey, I hope you guys are excited for Star Wars, blah blah blah. And she says, "Oh, we have a special. Somebody special wants to say hello to you guys." And I'm thinking somebody's gonna pop up on the screen. Maybe Harrison Ford, some pre-recorded thing. And lo and behold, it was John Boyega, and he was actually there. And he gives a little rally, talking about thank you for coming to see the movie. He said, he's excited, this and that, and pretty much just like Star Wars is back. May the Force be with you and whatnot. And yeah, it was a pretty exciting moment. I mean, especially being that we weren't even at the screening. This was at 10:45 on Friday. Screening, the first showing, at least in New York, was 7 o'clock in most theaters on Thursday. So yeah, to have that was pretty cool, because you'd expect that out of like a private screening or a first showing of the movie. But yeah, it was really cool. And I remember this kid from Attack the Block. If you guys haven't seen that movie, you actually should check it out. It's pretty much the guys that made Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, and it's about an alien who crashes in somewhere in England. These kids stumble upon it, a little group of kids or whatever, and they take the alien, bring it back to their what they call block, which is their apartment building. That's what they call it in England. And yeah, then lo and behold, there's a alien invasion, and they have to save the day. And pretty much John Boyega plays a character by the name of Moses. He's like the leader of that clique, and it was pretty funny to see him see him in that role, and now to see him as one of the main characters in the biggest franchise of all. And the coolest thing is to see him just as excited as everyone in that theater was to see the movie. And it's nice to see people part of that. Like you get so many times people that just want the check, that just want the money, and they really don't give a shit about the movie. But you have guys like Abrams and John Boyega and everybody else who was part of the project. They were all excited, and that's good. The series is in good hands. So that was cool. So shout out to John Boyega for coming by and saying hi. That was probably one of the coolest moments of the movie, in a movie that had nothing but cool moments. Now, onto my initial reaction. I was amazed. This is everything that any true Star Wars fan wanted it to be. This wasn't one of those things where in the prequels where everybody was hyped about it and they saw it and they were just like, what the fuck? This was Star Wars. This is everything that you know and love about Star Wars, but also enough to show you that this is the future of Star Wars and it's in good hands. So whoever's writing, directing, producing this the coming movies, it's in good hands as long as they keep that same crew intact. I know J.J. Abrams isn't supposed to direct the next one. The guy's name is, I forget his name. He directed Godzilla, and he's actually directing the next movie. And I didn't even realize he directed Godzilla, so I'm pretty excited about that. He also directed Breaking Bad, and whether you like the show or not, whether you've seen it or not, I haven't seen the show. I've heard good things about it, but when you have a director who knows how to deal with a cast and knows how to deal with character development, you know that they're right for a movie like this. Like even in the first Avengers, the director, I always forget his name when I need to use it in context, but he knew how to use an entire cast. He knew about character development, and that's why the first one was as good as it was. And even J.J. Abrams, who's been involved in Lost and I think Fringe, and I forget the other series he was involved in, but you saw that how important that was when you saw the Star Trek movies, how important that character development was on top of all that action. You have a great story, great characters, but you also have top-notch action, and that's what Star Wars was always and what it should always be. Again, it's nice to have that keep that team intact. So as long as they keep that team intact, I know J.J. Abrams, again, he's not directing, he's the executive producer, which is almost as big as being the director, because an executive producer, they have a lot of say in what goes on, and they're able to steer the director and the cast in the right way. So JJ should be good with that. And from what I've seen, him and the guy's name is Gareth Edwards. Him and Gareth, they have a pretty good rapport with each other. JJ feels that the franchise will be in good hands with Gareth. So it's nice to see that. So they'll be willingly working together, and we're going to see, at least as far as episode 8 and 9, we're going to see very good movies. And back to my initial reaction, I mean, I loved it. It was awesome. Everything was equally divided. The action, the characters, the nostalgia, the drama, it was all perfectly balanced. You had the characters were able to shine when they needed to shine. There wasn't actually any oversaturation, in my opinion. Finn and Rey were your main characters, but they were equally divided. You had enough material in there to you got their background without really giving a full background. There's still a lot of mystery surrounded around at least Rey, but you had that. You had enough to where you know who they are, for the most part what they're about, or you find out at least throughout when the movie, unfolds. And, they worked well enough with each other that nothing was really forced. Their chemistry was really cool. The chemistry was really good. You really, you feel that they're important to each other. And it wasn't a forced love story. It wasn't like, a guy and a girl, so they're naturally gonna have to love each other. But no, you see a kind of love, but it's not that romance. It may be, but it's more right now, we're both lost, we're both now part of something that's bigger than than us, so we have to stick together. And they have this sort of strong friendship, brother-sister like bond. And again, it may turn out to be a romance, but it wasn't, and that was cool. And like I said, if it is, that's fine, but it's still natural. You still feel like they genuinely care about each other. It's not something like Transformers, where you have Megan Fox running around with Shia LaBeouf's character for no reason. So she's just like a tag along. She's just there to be there, and that's what made this movie great. Again, you had a character like Poe, who, they don't really get into his story much, but you don't really need to know much about him other than that he's a good guy. He's the best pilot, and they do show that. It's not like they say it and it's not there. He's kicking ass throughout the whole movie. He's not over the top. He's not an over the top hero. He's not an over the top badass. He's just the guy that comes in, does what he does, and that's it. He's likable. He's believable. And then you have somebody like Captain Phasma, who I'm sure we all would have loved to see more of her, but down the line she's going to be a pivotal part in this franchise. Like, for example, this is going sort of forward a little bit, but towards the end of the movie, they have this scene where Snoke, I forget how to pronounce his name. I need to watch it again to remember it. But he pretty much says that find Kylo Ren and bring him to me so we could complete his training. So with that being said, maybe in that absence of him training, Captain Phasma steps up, because I believe Captain Phasma was the second in command or whatever. So yeah, we'll definitely see more of her. And she didn't die, which is cool. So yeah, again, everything was equally balanced. There was not too much of this, there was not too little of that. I mean, maybe there was too little of certain things, but it worked with the story. As opposed to just throwing it in there for no reason and making the future movies a mess and making this movie a mess. They held back on certain things. Now, you got, let's dig into Finn a little bit. Finn was a first order trooper who was pretty much brought in as a young kid, taught nothing but, he was trained to be a soldier, and that's all he knew his whole life. But they show right when you see him on screen, you don't see him, but you see his character in the stormtrooper suit. You see his sort of, he's in this situation where he doesn't want to be. He knows this is wrong and he shouldn't be doing this. And what's cool is that are there other stormtroopers that think that way? But anyway, so he finds himself questioning what he's doing, and then ultimately breaking free from the First Order. And that's pretty much him for now. He's willing to help Poe escape, obviously, so he can escape. But he's willing to help somebody else get out of there because he knew it was right. And that Finn is pretty simple. That was his story. Now onto a little more complex story in Rey. Rey's a scavenger. She's on the planet of Jakku, and she's a scavenger. She hunts for items, things worth money to help her survive. To buy her food. You see her searching, wreckage of star destroyers and things like that, looking for what should be valuable, equipment, weapons, things like that, selling it to this guy for again, for food and whatnot, and it all seems pretty simple. Then she stumbles upon BB-8. BB-8 is a droid that was given a map which contains the whereabouts of Luke Skywalker, who went into hiding. So she stumbles upon him. She doesn't know that he has those things on him. She just knows that he's a droid, and BB-8 doesn't want to tell her anything vital. And so she rescues him, fixes him up, lets him go about his way. But to keep this part of it simple, they pretty much, her and Finn run into each other. They get caught in pretty much, the First Order troopers not only looking for a droid, but looking for Finn, who's a defector, a traitor, bring them in and whatnot. So anyways, typical Star Wars fashion, they get caught in the mix. They start building a relationship due to the circumstances. They pretty much were forced into this relationship, but it worked. It wasn't, just them being together and whatever. And so Rey, she goes on this journey with them, and you start to see that she has the Force. And now this opens up so many questions, because obviously she is the daughter of either Leia or Luke, and that is totally up to debate. But she has the Force, so she has to be related to one of them. She has to be one of their kids. And we know that Kylo Ren is Han Solo's son, but we don't know what Rey's story is. They give it to us, but in such small pieces that we don't know where she comes from exactly, and that was cool. Now in the books, even though the books are not canon, and they're not canon anymore, in the books, Han Solo and Leia have 2 kids, and one becomes one is good and one is bad. It's actually the girl that's bad. Now, obviously that's not the case here, and again, the books are not canon, but being that J.J. Abrams is a huge fan, I don't know if he's one of those that have read all the books and whatnot. I'm pretty sure he has. Whether he has or hasn't, you can still loosely base the upcoming Star Wars stories on previous material. So there's a lot of mystery around Rey. Me personally, for story purposes, I feel that she is Han Solo and Leia's daughter, because of the fact that as far as story goes, it just makes it more emotional for brother and sister to ultimately be battling each other. But she can just as well be Luke Skywalker's daughter. But we don't know enough to make any of those assumptions. I mean, again, it could go either way. And like, I also feel that she's she's Leia's and Han's daughter, because I mean, you look at it like this: Leia is a peaceful person. She has kids. I'm pretty sure she does not want her kids to be involved in a war. And Leia's life as a general is war. So, in typical Star Wars fashion, oh, let's send off our kids somewhere. Now, I'm pretty sure she hoped that Rey would be brought up differently and have an easier life, but she turns out to have, apparently her parents disappeared and she's a scavenger and has to fend for her food and whatnot. So, and there's always this element of like people keeping things quiet in Star Wars or not knowing till like later on. So I don't know. I feel that, again, for story purposes, for more emotional story purposes, I think Rey and Kylo are brother and sister. Also, too, Rey, I feel Kylo had this assumption that his, maybe not Rey, but he has a sibling out there, and when he captured her and tried to get whatever information out of her, he kind of sensed it, and then he when she fought him using the Force, like she fought him reading his mind, I think then and there he realized she's something important. Now again, he may not realize that may or may not be her sister, but there's some kind of realization that she is something important to me, and also something dangerous to me. Should I go to the dark side, or should I stay on the dark side path or whatever? So, like when I forgot who it was that tells him that a girl was helped BB-8 and all this escape, and he spazzed out and started like destroying all his computers and whatnot, and just beating up the room and screaming and flipping out. I think something there tells you that, again, he has a sister, or something like that. It is something much more than to just him being a sexist guy, or like, oh, how is a girl foiling my plans? But again, that's all up to debate, and that's one of the biggest beauties in this movie, is that there's so much more to talk about. Like, people will complain, oh, they left us on a cliffhanger, oh, this and that, but this is a trilogy. There's 2 more installments to come, and definitely more after that. So you have to leave room for further story or further questions to be answered. You don't want this movie to have an end to where like everything else coming after this is just thrown on shit. So it's nice to see that they left it like that. And that's pretty much my messy rendition of Rey's story. Now we have Kylo. Kylo Ren is the big baddie of this movie, and they did a fucking good job with him. The biggest fear, especially after having somebody like Darth Maul be underlived or underused or whatever, back to Darth Maul, he looked like a huge badass. The movie was called Phantom Menace, and I'm pretty sure that didn't really revolve around him, but you would think that he was silent, he was badass, he would last long, he would be a problem, but they killed him off in the first movie. And you kind of had that fear with Kylo Ren, like, would he be that guy that's just there for the sake of being there to look bad and be, just a corny, underutilized character? But no, he was badass. I mean, it was cool that as badass as he was not, he didn't reach his full potential. He's not at that level yet. There's, going back to what I said before about Snook, telling, I forgot who it was, to go back and find him and bring him to me so we could finish our training. That shows that there's more to come. Like, this badass that you've seen in this movie is when he's fully shaped and fully realizes the dark side, that he's going to be a problem. And, he was everything that Anakin Skywalker's character should have been. You see his you see his lack of discipline, you see his anger, you see his sort of whininess, but it was like it was natural. You saw the human, you saw the pain, you saw the confusion. You didn't really see that in Anakin, so maybe like the very end you saw it in bits and pieces. But as far as the movies go, they didn't do the best job with it. In the animated series, you see that a lot more. You see his lack of discipline, his judgment, whether it be poor or whatnot. You saw that there was signs of him leaning towards the dark side, but then there was also like a little struggle. Like you see maybe the light will take over and he won't be Darth Vader. But even though he's going to become Darth Vader, you still see that. And with Kylo Ren, his lack of discipline, it worked. It was cool because there's more to come of him. They didn't kill him off, which is great. I was worried as he was fighting with Rey and Finn throughout the movie. I was afraid that they were going to kill him, but they did the right thing. And again, you're going to see more of him, and a more developed version of him. And also, you're going to see Snoke. You're going to see him come into play. Now, he only really showed up as a hologram, but that there's a lot more to him than just him being a guy pulling the strings. I mean, when you do see his face, you see there's a bunch of scars all over him. He looks disfigured, and it looks like something really bad had happened to him. And that's cool to see that come into play eventually, because you'll see his relationship with the Jedi, with the dark side, where he comes into play, what are his motivations, what are his who does he want to get back at, who does he want to take revenge on, and all that stuff. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming in the future for him. And again, people will complain, oh, we didn't see this, we didn't see that. But you know what? If you know anything about movie making, and I'm not even a director, I'm not even a producer, I don't write movies, but I know enough about storytelling to where they did it right. Everything in this movie was done right. It was well paced. You can make an argument about the whole going after that giant star killer, the planet that was like a mega level Death Star. You can make an argument that was the same plot as Star Wars and all the original trilogy, but it worked. I have no issues with it. I thought it was cool. They did it differently too, so it wasn't exactly the same, but it was cool. And going back to Kylo Ren, I mean, I thought he was a very well put together character, and I love the fact that you see his conflict, you see his struggle. There's a line where he tells his father Han, he says, I'm torn apart, and I love that because you really do see it. Now, whether he was just lying to his father, like whether he just did that to bring him in to kill him, or whether that was just like a sort of schizophrenic moment where 1 second he was, sort of leaning towards the light and the dark took over, that battle within him, or if that was just his intent and purpose to kill his father, to get him out the way so he has nothing to hold him back except for his mother. So yeah, there's a lot of mystery, even in the characters that you get in the characters that they give most of the screen time to. There's a lot of mystery, and that was beautiful, man. Like, again, any Star Wars fan should rejoice. Stop nitpicking. Stop looking at this, like looking for all these negatives. The problem with most people is they'll go and look for the negatives as opposed to looking for the positives. There's going to be plot holes. There's going to be things that's not done perfectly. There may be repetitive stories for the most part, but, I mean, it happens all the time. So you just go into this movie and enjoy it, man. Stop nitpicking. I mean, would you take the plot holes and couple things done wrong in this movie, or would you want another prequel situation? Would you want another Phantom Menace? So just be happy with what J.J. Abrams has done and the path that he set Star Wars on. Now, another character was BB-8. Now, BB-8 was really cool. BB-8 is the droid in the movie, and BB-8 was really, really done well. I mean, he was cute, he was funny, He was a little jerk at times, but that's what most droids are. Most droids don't. They don't have. All droids don't have hearts. So, you know, they're probably the most honest characters in all of Star Wars, and that was cool. He wasn't like this, like minion of the movie or one of those characters that you see in the animated. Those a lot of those animated films that don't have any dialogue, that they just say retarded shit and do retarded shit. BB-8 was there. He was pretty badass. And that scene with him and R2D2, that was pretty cool. I just remember him running into R2D2 trying to like wake him up or whatever, and that was pretty cool. And also with R2D2, I like what they did with him, where he went into hiding for the most part. He shut himself down after Luke Skywalker went into hiding, and I thought that was pretty cool because it really showed that droid to master connection. Like, that the connection between them two in the previous 3 films weren't just there to be there. This movie did a good job of not ignoring what happened before, at least in episodes 4 through 6. Another cool thing that I thought was brought up was Kylo Ren was talking to one of the generals, and he said we should have brought back the clone protocol, or we should have brought back the clones. I thought that was beautiful because it showed not only reference to older things, whether they were good or bad. It showed like that he was really serious about people making mistakes. It showed him like him being a leader. Like these the First Order troops, they're not getting it done. So let's bring back the clones. I mean, they didn't really dig too deep into that, but I love that little line. That was cool. And onto the stormtroopers. I thought this was. Some things that they did were so subtle, but it was beautiful. Like, first of all, in the first shot, when you see them coming down in that ship and they show the inside of the ship, something we saw in the initial teaser trailer. First of all, you see stormtroopers of different size. That was cool. Something small but cool. Because, not all stormtroopers are the same. They're all people picked up, like Finn. Finn was taken as a little kid, however he was taken, and ripped from his family or whatever, and trained to be a stormtrooper as a kid. And so you have people of different shapes and sizes. They had a female stormtrooper. I don't know if any of you noticed that, but I thought that was cool. Again, this shows that that they were looking for anybody and everybody, and it was just something subtle that I enjoyed. And then you have like all their different weaponry and whatnot. I saw a diagram that a diagram of like their different weapons, and like it pointed out parts of the weapon and this and that. Will showed me that earlier, and I thought that was cool because it shows how the attention to detail that J.J. Abrams and everybody around this movie put into something like the stormtroopers. They were actually efficient. There was ways of making them more efficient, not like the old ones where in episode 4, when the stormtroopers had attacked the sandcrawler, and Obi-Wan starts talking about that this could have only been done with the precision of the stormtroopers, but then in the rest of the franchise you see them hit nothing. Stormtroopers couldn't hit anything, and in this movie they actually kill people. They were they upgraded weaponry, things like that. And one of the coolest things that they did was you had that stormtrooper who called Finn a traitor, and went into battle with him when Finn had the lightsaber, and the rifle had weaponry that was able to combat a lightsaber. So it was cool that though the Jedi were supposedly dead and gone and rid from the universe, they still had backup plan. They still had they still took precaution, and that was great because again it shows the attention to detail. It shows how smart of a of a army they are, that they weren't going to leave any chance to get, just in case, say, anybody comes out. Even if, say, Kylo Ren decided to turn against them, they had a way to sort of hold them off for the most part. And that was cool. It's very reminiscent of, real-life soldiers. And I remember this a lot in Civil War and American Revolution, where they had the bayonettas, where, they had a blade attached to their rifle for close combat. So a gun is, especially back then, the way you refill the rifles and everything, they were pretty much obsolete in close combat because you're not gonna have enough time to shoot somebody, then reload the rifle. So you put a blade on it, and that was just smart. So it's them doing that. Props to JJ and whoever put that together. I thought that was brilliant. And then the way they used the Force, it was cool. It really showed. You see the power of the Force, like that one, the one shot at the beginning where who is it? Poe shoots Kylo, and Kylo stops the laser, and it just stays there, and that was just cool. It was like those little things, Star Wars has always talked about the power of the Force, but for the most part, you never see it, especially in the bad guys. Like, you never see it. It's like, well, except for when Darth Vader was like choking people and things like that. But like going back to Episode 1, there was this one scene where Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn are fighting droids, and Obi-Wan uses the Force and literally takes out one droid when there's at least like 4 or 5 in the shot. Like, come on, you couldn't have just swiped them all out real quick with your Force powers. So that was cool. And then, going back to Kylo, how when he froze people with the Force, they actually looked frozen and almost paralyzed, and it was pretty cool. So that they really did a good job with those subtle things. I mean, you can go into looking at the obvious big, additions and the things they brought back, but it was those little subtle things, the attention to detail that really made this movie stand out. It wasn't just like, oh, let's just bring this shit back and throw it in there. No, it's like, let's upgrade this, let's fix this, let's make it work for certain situations. And going to like talking about like nostalgia and certain characters and certain things that popped up in this movie, it wasn't like, boom, let's throw it in your face for the sake of doing it. Let's pull a Terminator Genesis where we make Arnold Schwarzenegger say, I'll be back as many times as you can. C-3PO, R2-D2, they were in the movie, but it wasn't like, let's just throw them in there because they're C-3PO and R2-D2 and all the old fans want to see old shit come back, so let's bring that back. They had them in there. They were in there for a little bit of time, but that was fine. Something as big as Han and Leia, them two coming together. Actually, you know what? Let me digress. Let's go back to Han. When they first, even before they find Han, you see the Millennium Falcon, and the way they did it was so smart. When Rey calls the ship garbage, and they don't show a ship, and then next thing you know, you see the ship, and you're like, oh shit, it's the Falcon. And there was all these little Easter eggs and nostalgic moments within that time of them being in the ship, and then eventually they make it out of their situation and they get captured by something, which happens to be Han Solo. Han Solo found his old ship. That's that shot where you see him and Chewie, and they're like, Han says, Chewie, we're home. And it was just cool. You see them, you see the same way they left off. They're just obviously older, well, at least Han Solo's older. But as far as their relationship, it was the exact same relationship that you saw in the original trilogy. Chewbacca always blowing up Han Solo's spot and things like that. And that was great. And it wasn't shoehorned in there. It wasn't just for the sake of being there. It worked with the story. And then you fast forward to Han and Leia meeting up for the first time in this movie. Again, you see that they've changed, but they're still the same people. So they've matured, they've grown through age. You see that there has been a 30-year gap, that this just wasn't the same character right after they left off. They obviously knew about each other, cared about each other, but they weren't with each other at the moment. You see their respect, you see the love, and that was cool. And I love that line where, the two lines where Leia tells Han, you still drive me crazy, and Han goes, I know. And it was just cool to see them together from their hug, and you see the chemistry. You see something that was like very predominant in the original trilogy was their relationship, their chemistry. They always had chemistry since they first were on screen together in Episode 4, and they still have it now, and it's pretty cool to see them still doing that. And yeah, so the nostalgic moments were were really, really well done, and that was great. Again, they didn't just throw it in there. Like I remember this episode of The Simpsons. It was that Simpsons Family Guy crossover. And I know everybody was really excited about it. I was, and honestly, when The Simpsons and the Griffins met up, and like that whole section of that episode, I thought it was very underwhelming. Like they just looked for any opportunity to throw in somebody's punchline or catchphrase. There wasn't a lot of natural things going on. There was maybe one or two lines or parts that I really cared about. I actually thought the funniest part was before they even met up, when Peter Griffin was drawing those political cartoons in the newspaper, and he had that one where it was saying how he had his wife. I think the character he drew threw his wife on the floor and said, "My dishwasher is broken." And at first I didn't get it, but when it dawned on me, I almost pissed my pants. It was so fucked up. But yeah, the whole episode was pretty much just like, let's throw in all these characters from The Simpsons and just throw in their catchphrase for no apparent reason. And this, back to Star Wars, this didn't do that. Now, you had your references, you had your Easter eggs, and I have to watch this movie a couple more times to really catch and absorb everything. So I kind of wanted to hold off on doing this review, but I've been talking about it with so many different people over the past two days, and I kind of wanted to really do this so I could actually talk. I've been actually just typing all this stuff that I've been saying, and I actually wanted to get it out. Now it sucks that I don't have anybody here to talk to about all this stuff, but yeah, we'll figure that out soon, because I would like to hear other people's opinions and whatnot, even if we have the same opinion. But yeah, so I wanted to wait and do this, but I kind of had to do it because this movie has been so awesome to me. I mean, this movie and Mad Max are my movies of the year. I haven't seen movies like Creed or Martian or Black Mass or Kingsman, and there's other movies that I've missed out on, but from these big blockbuster movies, from Ant-Man, which is pretty good, to Age of Ultron, to Jurassic World, 007 Spectre, and Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation, I kind of feel like Star Wars and Mad Max were the two movies that were not afraid to be their own movie. Now, yeah, Star Wars definitely was very much like the old Star Wars, but that's fine. It didn't fall into that typical Hollywood cliche category where you're throwing all these bullshit love stories in, and all these corny catchphrases and these cheesy shots. I mean, this is the Star Wars movie that everybody wanted, and we should all be happy. I mean, we should all look forward to what's to come and just enjoy this shit. Like, what more do you want? I'm pretty sure nobody I know can direct a better film than what was given to us. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited that it was good as it was. I'm definitely excited to see it again and again. I still have to see it in IMAX, so I'll be seeing that in IMAX this weekend. I mean, and something else I was excited about too was the Disney Infinity figures that came out. I've been a huge fan of those things. I mean, I tried to fight it off. I tried to stay away from them, but then they released Star Wars figures, and then once I saw them, that was it. It was over for me. Especially once they released the original trilogy. You had Han, Chewie, Darth Vader, Luke, Leia. I was like, and then yeah, it just became a free fall from there. Picked up the game. I was really looking forward to playing it. I haven't actually touched the game yet, but these figures are so damn awesome. Looking at my Kylo Ren figure right now, but yeah, I'm excited to get that. Probably dive into that sometime during the week. So yeah, I mean, there's not really much more to say. I mean, again, for the fifth time, I'm telling you this, I really love the movie. I have no gripes. I have more good things to say than bad things to say about it. The only one minus I can give it was that one Ranthar scene, whatever, where they were with Han and those aliens attacked. Was it Rey opened up the wrong door or something like that? Other than that, I mean, that wasn't even something that like I really hated. It was just like, okay, yeah, it's definitely could have been not in the movie, but it didn't hurt the movie at all. Like, I give it a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. Perfect rating in my opinion, and like I said before, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it again. Looking forward to the conversations to come, and yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it too. If anybody hasn't seen it, if you listen to this podcast and you're crazy, because I did announce that this was a spoiler heavy podcast, but I mean, some people just don't care. But yeah, once again, I give Star Wars The Force Awakens 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, however you want to rate it. To me, it was perfect. I have to give this the edge over Mad Max, even though you guys know how much I love Mad Max Fury Road. I think Star Wars The Force Awakens takes the cake. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about a lot of movies coming out next year. Civil War, Batman vs. Superman, Suicide Squad, the next Star Wars film, Rogue One, which is supposed to take place prior to Episode 7. From what I saw, it's supposed to touch on events happening around Episode 4, where the rebels steal plans for the Death Star. I don't know how true that is, but I've heard interview with the producer talking about that, so I guess that's pretty much the plot for that. But anyways, yeah, that's those movies I'm excited for. Also, sort of excited for Star Trek Beyond. It's not directed by J.J. Abrams, but he's producing it, so that gives me enough confidence in that movie. X-Men, Apocalypse, things like that. Like, I'm really excited for those movies, but Civil War being one of the ones on the top of my list, just because the Russos directed it. Even Batman vs. Superman, I think it's going to be better than a lot of people are giving it credit for. But Star Wars, I think, is going to be the best movie going into next year. It's just, yeah, this is like one of those monumental movies, and 20 years down the line, we're going to be talking about how awesome it was, as opposed to how shitty the prequels were. So it's nice to be on the right side of that. So, but yeah, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, movie of the year in my opinion. Can't wait to see it again, and I'll be talking to you guys soon after I see it for the third or fourth time. Peace, and may the Force be with you.